Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Rumcast, another special shorter episode, part of our, what we've referred to in the past as semi-blind rum reviews. This will be a semi-blind rum review with a twist. So I know we took a short break from doing these episodes, but we still want to make this a regular part of the show, trying to do at least one of these a month. So we're getting right back to it in the month of, we're recording this in October. It'll probably be out sometime soon, possibly early November. But the twist this time, John, is that rather than just one of us not knowing the identity of this rum, both of us, as of right now, know nothing about this rum other than what it looks like, the color in the glass, and what it smells and tastes like. So we had a patron of the Rumcast, Ben, graciously handed off these mystery samples to us. In this episode, we will be doing mystery rum number 1, and then we'll be doing a second mystery rum number 2 episode, which we'll release separately. But I was pretty excited when I saw the mystery sample bottle. It had this graphic printed on it, which I'll hold up to the camera now, from Scooby-Doo, the villain reveal where they yank the mask off the villain, and that just gave me a good chuckle.
Do you know, Will? Do you remember or recall that episode by any chance?
You know, I watched Scooby-Doo when I was a kid, but I don't have memories of like specific episodes and stuff like that. Although I know I've seen this scene before. I feel like it's a popular GIF or maybe a meme. So
maybe.
I've seen it.
So I'm a little older than you, I think, and I do remember
little.
watching Scooby-Doo. Yeah, just a little, just a couple years. This is definitely the Kiss monster from the rock band Kiss.
Oh yeah. The mask does look like a Kiss band member mask.
Yeah, and I think that was like a classic episode. So that's a really cool thing to put on the bottle. I love that Ben put a little effort into this, and it's apropos for Halloween, right? It seems like it's right there. So
Halloween's right around the corner. So, you know, to go over the rules of this concept briefly, you know, traditionally how these episodes work is that one of John or myself knows the identity of the rum and the other doesn't, and the blind taster is trying to, you know, not only provide thoughts about the rum and just the overall experience, the enjoyment level, and things like that, but also identify possibly its origins and details like proof, price, and things of that nature. So this time it's the exact same concept, except like I said, neither of us know what this rum is, so we're both blind. You know, maybe we'll disagree, maybe we'll agree, maybe we'll help each other, you know, get to the right answer. I have no idea how this is all going to unfold, John, but I'm excited. So
I am too. I think this is always fun to do. So so like you mentioned, I wanted to mention the color to start with, and we could start there. What would you call this color, Will?
Coppery.
I have a descriptor.
Bronze.
And I don't mean to be gross with it, but for some reason I get dehydrated urine.
I knew you were gonna go urine once you said not to be gross.
But like dehydrated, like it's enough that like somebody's maybe got a problem.
Very dehydrated.
They're not drinking enough water.
Gonna say. Yeah.
So it's got some color, is what we're trying to say. Not super dark. I mean, it's still translucent enough, but you know, it suggests some aging.
Yeah, I would say it suggests some aging. Yeah. It doesn't appear like a lightly aged rum, and it doesn't really smell like a super lightly aged rum either. John, this is one of those nosing experiences that fairly quickly into nosing this rum, I was like, I think I know where this is from.
Same.
And I feel like that's a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, it's like, oh, hell yeah, I've got this. On the other hand, once you make that connection, it's very hard to get away from it. Yeah. And so if you're wrong, then you almost like have no chance of recovery, I feel like. It's just kind of like, so you may as well just go all in with that prediction, I think. It's really hard to break myself away from it.
If you had more time and more ounces of it to go through, you know, at a longer span, maybe you could. But to your point, you know, we've got a small sample here, and we this is only the second time I've really gone through this rum. So you're right. Once you kind of land on something, it's hard to jump away from that. But literally, my notes say nose, quote, I know this rum. That's exactly what it says. And then I have sour, fresh, blackberry must. So like a soury or a fresh is kind of smell of a blackberry must is what I have. I don't know if
me,
you got anything similar. Yeah.
what I get, and this is a nose that I associate, or a description that I think is just my own internal language, but it's something that I associate strongly with a particular distillery.
Okay.
And it's similar to yours because it's definitely like fruit is leading the way, but it's sort of like passion fruit leather is how I think about it. It's
That's
almost
a good
like
one.
dried passion, like you took passion fruit and like dried it and maybe a little bit candied.
Yeah.
And then it has a certain almost perfume like quality to it. Like
Yep.
if you took that note that I'm describing and made a perfume out of it, I would
Yep.
imagine it would smell something like this. So it's a very pleasant, makes me think of being somewhere nice and warm in the Caribbean, that sort of thing. It's just a very comforting, fun, fruity, delicious smelling nose.
So you know how you can take things one of two different ways, right? And I agree with you on that. And my brain does interpret that kind of passion fruit, like leather, is a good note. I think that's a really good one. But there's a negative connotation that I got from this also that I've had before.
Okay, what's that?
And I'm not saying that it makes me dislike the rum, but if you start to smell this, and I'm going to apologize in advance for giving you this.
Are you gonna say something disgusting again?
It's a lot like vomit.
Oh, okay. I don't know that I can quite get there. There have been rums where I get a sort of a vomity kind of note,
Yeah.
Sometimes it happens with Guyana rums. Like I've had some Versailles still rums that have a bit of vomitiness to them. Sometimes some Jamaican
Okay.
rums can get it a little bit.
Or stomach acid, maybe, to put it in a different way.
You know what? There is a little bit of stomach acid in there now that you put it like that. No, I don't know. I'm getting all very pleasant,
interesting.
warm, fruity breeze kind of notes from it.
Yeah, oddly, I still enjoy this as well. But if I give myself that outlook, it does start to kind of disgust me a little bit. So I'm going to back away from that at this point. But yeah, it's there for me.
Okay,
I have to say.
Do we want to hold off on just coming out there with where we think this is from? Do we want to taste through it and kind of talk through what we're tasting a little bit,
Yes,
and then get to
Yeah. I know you have a rum in mind, or a distillery in mind, and I do as well. But let's go through our notes first before we stick that. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to give this a taste. So sometimes you go through nosing a rum and then you taste it and it's like a lot of the promise of the palate doesn't match up, or the promise of the nose doesn't match up with the palate. I would say this rum is not like that at all. In that
it's well matched.
The palate is very well matched to what we just described on the nose. I do think the oak characteristics come through more on the palate than they do on the nose. You're getting more vanilla, more just kind of the barrel char a little bit mixing in there with the fruitiness. It definitely tastes to me like there's a decent amount of age on this rum. It has kind of like a bottom end characteristic that I associate with longer aged rums. So, but what about you?
Totally. I'm with you. I still get an acidic something from it. Like you mentioned, passion fruit has that acidic kind of thing to it. So there's something there. It's a really good rum. We didn't say base material, so I'm going with molasses.
Yeah, I think it's a molasses.
I'm just making
rum.
sure.
Yeah,
all right. I didn't want to.
I know.
I've
I've struggled with this issue, somewhat disappointingly to myself in previous semi-blind episodes, but this one I'm fairly confident is molasses.
Okay.
Partially because the place that I think it's from, I think
molasses rum.
does molasses rums exclusively.
Yeah.
But also partially just because I don't really pick up on what I would think of as cane juice characteristics in it.
I'm fully agreed, and I also agree on the long age, so much so that I'm willing to put a guess on it. So I'm going to give you a range, first of all, 18 to 23.
Oh, wow.
I think it's up there.
I think I agree with you. I think 18 is right around where I would say. I think I'm going to go with I'll go slightly under that.
Okay.
I'll say 17 to 20. So still very much in the same range you're describing. But that's around where I think it is, just because of those kind of I always end up describing stuff in music terms, but like heavy bass notes almost to it, that I feel like you really get in those longer aged years. I feel like there's a hint, there's a little bit of like a floral soapy quality to it, but not in like a, sometimes you can taste like a soapy type flaw in rums, you know?
Yeah.
I think I've heard from producers that if you proof spirit down too quickly, it can cause it to have a soapy characteristic. So it's not like a flaw. And I'm also guessing this is a cask strength spirit, just because it does read fairly high strength to me. You know, I would be surprised if it had been proofed down.
Okay. You gonna go higher than 55?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I was trying to settle between 55 and 60.
Yeah, I think it's like, if it's in the 60s, it's the lower 60s.
Yeah.
But I would think at least high 50s.
All right. So where's your origin? I think you already mentioned it twice. If you're thinking what I'm thinking, what country?
Sorry, I'm still thinking about the proof.
Okay.
I'm going to settle it. I think it's like 59% is what I'm going to say. So my country for this, I think, is Trinidad.
Okay. So,
and I think it's from TDL.
I had two guesses. Trinidad TDL was one, and Jamaica Clarendon was the other.
Interesting.
Because I specifically have a recollection of a long-aged Jamaican Clarendon rum that pulled me back into this. So I won't be surprised if that's wrong and it is a TDL, because my first initial kind of reaction was, feels like Trinidad TDL. But if it's not, and it turns out to be Jamaica Clarendon, I really feel like, okay, I remember something that's bringing me back. I think it was like maybe an Impex release or another IB that maybe have pulled that out. Could have even been one of those, a long time ago, I had a Plantation Extreme series that seems to be coming to mind.
So when we were talking about age, and I was thinking, like, when you said into the 20s, where my mind went immediately was Aficionados and Fine Drams did a 23-year-old Clarendon release. And I bought a bottle of it.
Okay.
And those like low end notes that I was describing remind me, and the leatheriness of it reminds me specifically of that rum. And historically, I have gotten some floral notes and stuff like that from Clarendon specifically, and I get a little bit of those floral notes in this rum. But it's really that passion fruit note I associate so strongly with TDL that, again, so I kind of want to taste it again with Clarendon in mind and see if I get more of a Jamaican slant from it now. That's really interesting, because now I feel like I could talk myself into it being that rum. And you also said blackberry, which is a note that I associate with both Clarendon and Long Pond rums sometimes.
Both of them.
Oh shit, this suddenly got really tough.
And now I'm tasting it a little bit more through the lens of the TDL. I had kind of, so it's funny you mentioned that, because I was going to come out and say, you know what, I'm landing on Jamaica Clarendon. When I said, I had text you right before, when I tried it, and I was like, okay, I think I know what this is what I was telling you. And I think I was going to stick with Jamaica Clarendon. But now that you told me the TDL and I'm back to that, I'm like, shit, it really feels like that too. So,
well, I think the only thing for us to do is for one of us to go with Clarendon and one of us to go with TDL and just see how it shakes out.
All right.
I feel like if it's not TDL, I won't feel embarrassed guessing it, because I can see I can see the similarities.
Yeah.
But it really is funny now, because even with the benefit of having your perspective and being open to the possibility that it could be Clarendon, I honestly feel like I'm no closer to choosing which one it is. Now I'm just like, shit, it tastes like both of them to me, and I can't I can't separate it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with TDL just because that's the first place my mind went. And also, I took one little taste before we hopped on, and I was like, you hear the stories about TDL having the Corona casks, right? And there's a lot of like fuzziness around like, what all have they put it in blends and stuff. And we talked to John Georges about that. And I like the upon first taste, I got a little bit of like a grungy characteristic to it that reminded me a little bit of Corona, but it was one of those things that like as I went back to it, I couldn't really find it again. And sometimes when you're tasting, especially something that's high proof and more intense, I feel like your second or third tastings of it are more in line with reality than the first tasting of it is. And I just found whatever that initial association I had with that,
Right.
I had trouble
Yeah.
finding it upon subsequent tastings.
It's like your brain is flipping through the catalogs quickly to
Right.
just find, and you get something close enough, and you're like, wait, did I maybe, and then sometimes you go back and it's not there. I didn't get that. I didn't get the Caroni. I would be surprised with that, but yeah. All right. Well, I'm really excited to find out what this is. I'll go with Jamaica. Yeah.
Before reveal, as per tradition, what do you think this rum would cost?
Oh, that's right. Considering a high strength spirit, and even if I'm going to kind of hedge my bets here and say whether it's a Jamaica Clarendon long aged release or it's a TDL release, it's going to be up there. It's going to be in the $150 to $200 range.
I agree, and we're talking about a 700 ml or 750 ml bottle.
Yeah.
And I'm specifying that because those aficionados releases I mentioned earlier were $375. So I think the price on Fine Drams of that specific Clarendon release I was talking about was €80. So which scales up to about 160 euros, which would be probably $180, $190, something like that.
I was going to say 199 sounds like a good number for me.
Yeah, I'm going to put this around 175, something like that. I'll split the difference, but it's certainly not a cheap rum, given the amount of age that we think is on here. But I think would be a fair price for the experience you're getting in here. I will say, just maybe comparing it to, since I think this is a TDL, potentially comparing it to some of the other memorable TDLs I've had recently. The Trinidad Flag series, the upcoming
Raising
Glasses Jobless release. This to me doesn't strike me as quite on the level of those releases, but still very good, which now is making me think even more so it might be Clarendon, which would be really funny if it's literally the rum that I own and I backed away from that because man, it's really reminding me of that rum too. But I don't know that it has quite the amount of age characteristic that rum has. And to somewhat go against the spirit of the exercise, it also doesn't seem as dark as that rum is. So, okay. Anything else?
I'm ready for it.
All right. I'm going to
reveal the masked villain.
Ben has texted me the identity of this rum with spoiler tags via Discord, so I can tap them and reveal the identity. Let me make sure I'm doing mystery number 1. Okay. Here it is, John.
Okay.
All right. CDI, so Compagnie des Indes.
Okay.
Trinidad, TDL, 2003, aged 20 years.
Yep.
And 61.7%.
Nicely done.
I think we were pretty close.
Yeah,
I think I said 59 and what did I say, 19 years or 20 years? I think I said
you said
18,
17 to 20.
17 to 20, yeah.
Yeah, so you were close, yeah.
Okay, but man, you really had me going with Clarendon, and I almost want to run and grab that release I have just to compare them. Yeah, it definitely could have gone that way. I've been taking my lumps in some of these semi-blind
so that
reviews.
One feels good for you?
It feels good. It feels good to at least identify the distillery correctly. So let me see. He also took some pictures. So okay, yep. So there's the bottle you can see there.
It's really great that you nailed it this time. I do think it's been a rough go, and I'm glad that you got this one. And like you said, I think we both kind of nailed the style is a really bad word, but you know, there's something similarity there between those two distilleries that we've pointed out. Not in every release, but in some of them, especially as they go along age. So I think that's fun as an interesting kind of caveat. So I've got 212 euros.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so we think 212 euros. So that's a little bit more. think if you spent that on it, it's not like you're sitting there with a bad rum. I do think relative to some of the other TDL distillate around that age that I've tried, I might be a little disappointed because, like I said, just in my memory of some of those other two rums that I mentioned, it's not quite as wowing me like those did. Now, granted, I'm not sitting here comparing them ABC, you know?
Right.
But I feel like I've had more wowing Trinidad long-age TDL experiences for bottles that were a little less than that.
Yeah, I mean, I still think, like you said, it's cask strength. It's a good rum overall. I don't fault it. It's a little more than I would want to pay, period. But it's still a good spirit.
All right. Well, fun time doing that together, working toward the solution as a team. So I'm excited to see what mystery rum number 2 holds for us.
Yeah, thanks to Ben. You would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for us meddling podcasters.
You've been sitting on that line, haven't you? That was great. That was great. All right, on that note, we will wrap up this edition of Fully Blind Rum Reviews. So thanks again to Rumcast patron Ben for supplying us with the mystery sample, and we will be back again soon. If you would like to watch the video version of this, you can check that out on YouTube. We are the Rumcast on YouTube, of course. And if you've had this rum, we would love to know your thoughts and impressions. You can send us an email, host@rumcast.com. That's HOST@rumcast.com. Or you can shoot us a message on any number of social media channels. John, where can they find us on social media?
At the Rumcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. And send us a DM through there or leave a comment, like, and subscribe, all that fun stuff. And we'll see you next time for another blind review, right? Well, these are fun. We got to keep them going.
We got to keep them going. There's more where this one came from. So until then, cheers, everyone.
Cheers.